after Dealey Plaza, you went to Chicago, you were debriefed, all of these things. But then during 64, the following year, you went through different treatments where you hardly remember anything of that year. And I think this is that's very important to understand that your memory has been messed with. And I think for a reason, for you not to remember certain things about that event, but that you were so valuable to them that they didn't want to get rid of you. You were too useful for them, so they had to mess with your mind instead. So this is where I have found different. I mean, I devoted 44 years of my life or whatever to try and find out what happened on the street level that day, and I have a picture that is much bigger than the one you are presenting. I would strongly say that I completely trust what you're saying, but that your memory has been messed with. So there's different things that has been erased. So if I could ask you, if I say names, if you say, yes, I saw this guy in Dealey Plaza, if you could please tell me where and so on to help put this picture together. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
So you mentioned before in different interviews that Frank Sturgis was there, that he was in a green bomber jacket. He also claimed and bragged about him being that he shot JFK. So I've never been able to completely position him in Dealey Plaza when the shots were fired. But where you said that you saw him down the grassy knoll to your left, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see
But he
where
was
he
back
went?
up almost off of Elm Street. He was back up off, not on the street. He was back up, and I would say probably 40 feet, 50 feet from the sidewalk to the left.
So is that the only place you saw him? Did you see where he went? Because
I
he was
don't
not
know
there
where he
when
went
the.
or what he did. My
Okay.
mind was had one track. I had one track mind. I was
Yeah,
dead
I
set on my target.
completely understand that. So you also said that you saw Orlando Bosch, Dr. Death.
Oh, I know it. Yes.
Yeah, was he in a light suit, like almost silver colored or light gray with a hat on?
I don't remember what he was wearing because
So
I
where
know he
did
was
you
well
see him?
dressed, but I couldn't describe his clothes. It's been
Where
too
did you
long
see
ago.
him? Where did you see him? Do you remember?
He was up by Houston Street.
Okay, so Freddie Lugo, you also said that you saw.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, where did you
Most of the
see him?
Cubans were up and towards the Elm and Houston, that area there.
Yeah, because like what I found over the years is like Dealey Plaza that day, the people that were there, since the route was redirected, the people that were there, a lot of the people knew that it was being redirected, and it was almost like the who's who of Murder Incorporated. There's so many of these individuals that are there for what E. Howard Hunt called a big event. So
Okay, the route, to clear one thing up, the route was published in the newspaper a week early, but they were supposed to go straight down Main Street. But you
mm,
come back, they changed it to where they come down Elm Street so you can see the people. That was the last minute
exactly,
change, and that was the change we got that morning when I took Johnny Rosella to Fort Worth to the old
exactly.
South Pancake.
But all of the people I'm talking about were along Houston Street and down Elm Street. So they were following
Right.
this instead of standing along Main Street, which would be the normal one. Anyway, so you say that you saw George Bush there standing and leaning up against
Yes, he
the
was leaning
stone.
against the school book depository.
Exactly. Uh,
And I know George Bush very well, so I didn't mistake identify him.
exactly. So did
Well,
you see,
you studied it. You read about Luis Pastel Corrales, right?
say again, please?
Luis Pastel Corrales.
Yeah, yeah.
Luis Corrales. Okay, he was friends with Tony Viciano, Antonio. Okay,
And
Luis
were
and
they,
me were the first George Bush had recruited for Operation 40.
but
So
were
Bush
Antonio, sorry, were
went,
Antonio Veciana there that day? I have him on the list as well.
yes,
He
yes,
was in Dealey Plaza also. Excellent.
yes.
Oh,
Everybody
okay.
was there because they had all heard about it. They all wanted to see it.
Yeah. So Luis Posada Carillas was there as well.
Yes. No,
Wow.
he wasn't there.
He was not there.
I don't think he was there. Tony Viciano was there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember to straighten if Luis was there or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it
So
was. It's been a
did
long
you?
time for me, and '93,
Of
my
course,
memory is not as sharp as it used to be.
of course. This is just if it's okay for me just to go through this list. Milwaukee
Go ahead.
Phil, Milwaukee Phil,
No,
he was not there. Did you see
no,
Hale Braden or Eugene Bradley, who led the Rosselli
no, I
and
didn't see him there. That he was there, but I didn't see him.
okay, but you saw it. I mean, Johnny Rosselli, and you spent time that day, and you picked them up afterwards as well. So, the
Eugene helped Brady lock the office for them to get into.
exactly. So that office, was that a mining company, and who owned that company? I mean, that is where the school book depository museum should actually be, in that building on the second floor. But who was owning that company? Was it a CIA owned mining company? Would that be correct? Is that anything you know?
They own mining companies, but I do not know if they own that one or not. That I
Okay.
do not know. But they own
So
United Fruit.
The,
so did you
Ole,
see a guy?
the building supposedly belonged to the Hunt brothers, the oil guys,
Yep.
and Braden was like his stepson, I guess, an adopted son.
Thank
That's what I
you.
heard. I don't know.
So James Aldovera Serafin, did you see him there that
Yes,
day? Yeah.
yes.
Did you see him drive around in a black car with a microphone? So
No,
he was circling
no,
around in the parking lot behind you, but you saw him that
no.
day.
I saw him that day, but I did not see him driving in the parking lot.
Okay. Bernard L. Barker.
Who?
Bernard Barker. He was one of the
No.
Watergate burglars. Afterwards, he was working
Yeah,
tightly
I
with
don't know if he
Lee
was there
Hunt.
or not. I didn't see him. I
Okay.
didn't see him.
But Lansdale, you spoke to that day, and you were behind the picket fence together with Ed Lansdale, correct?
Right.
Yeah. So you saw the meeting between Rosselli and Jack Ruby at the Pancake House in Fort Worth that
Yes.
morning. Did you see Ruby
Yes.
in Dealey Plaza that day as well?
No, I didn't see Ruby in Dealey Plaza.
Okay. Did you see Gary Hemming?
Him, I remember him from the Bay of Pigs and us working together down there in Florida, but I don't remember if he was there in the plaza or not. He might have
Okay.
been. I don't know. I don't remember.
Rip Robertson?
No.
Okay. Ted Shackley?
Who?
Ted Shackley? Ted Shackley,
Ted
the blonde ghost?
Yeah, I know. I don't remember if I seen him there or not. I don't believe so.
Okay.
I've seen a lot of the Cubans there, but I don't remember Shackley, and I knew Shackley only from Phoenix. The
Okay.
Phoenix program in Vietnam.
So, that was later. So, what about Rolando Masferrer? Was he that day?
Who?
Rolando Masferrer?
Yeah,
He was there that
it was
day.
a Rolando. I'm not sure of his last name, but Rolando. A guy named Rolando was there. Yes.
Did you know Roscoe
It
White?
looked like old home week.
Say again, please.
It looked like old home week. All the Cubans there.
Yeah. Did you know Roscoe White from earlier operations?
I did not know him exactly from earlier operations, but I had seen him. But as far as for doing anything with him or being close to him, no. Or talking with him, no. I've seen him, and
Okay.
as he was pointed out, I knew who he was.
So, Walter Tabinski, is that a name you know?
Who?
Walter
Walensky? No, I don't recognize the name.
Okay. He's the guy that is being photographed coming out from the embassy in Mexico City, and also I would claim that he's one of the people in Dealey Plaza that day taking action. Clyde Forshaw, is that a name you know? Clyde Forshaw. Clyde Forshaw.
I don't recognize the name.
Okay.
But you got to understand, back then most of us used aliases. Even at the
Yeah.
Bay of Pigs moves down there, we didn't use their real names.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
Before my name filed, don't forget, I was Jimmy Sutton. I was Jimmy Sutton when I shot Kennedy.
Yeah. So Roy Hargraves.
That sounds familiar, but I can't even put a face with it.
Okay. Viciana, you say was there that day. Did you see Chauncey Holt?
No, I did not see Chauncey Holt. He was the one I know that come in with Chuck and them, but he delivered the
Secret Service badges.
service identification and the badges.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Chauncey Holt
Charles-
ran what we call a floating press.
could you say again, please?
Chauncey Holt operated and ran what we call a floating press.
Okay.
We
Charles
all
Harrell?
use, sometimes we use the same ID, but we just had our picture there instead of the other guy's picture.
Yeah.
Maybe 6 guys with the pictures had the same identification.
Is that the case with the identity of Oswald? Because that names were floating around in different operations before this thing, and
Well, Lee Harvey Oswald, him and me spent 5 days together before the assassination. And I know it was the real Lee Harvey Oswald because he had the scar on his upper lip where he got hit on the rifle range with the butt of a stock, from the M1 rifle.
it is said that you said that the Oswald that you met had a tattoo on the backside of his back. Is that correct that you said that? Because I never heard you
Yes.
say it. You saw a tattoo. Okay.
No, I didn't see it. I know he had one. He said he had a tattoo.
He said he had one, but you never saw it.
No.
Okay. So Charles Frederick Rogers, he was also under the name of Carlos Montoya. Is that a guy? He was also
Yeah.
called Frenchie. Is that a guy that you
Montoya, I don't know what they call him. I know it was Montoya. Most
Okay,
of
was
us
he-
use their last name a lot.
Yeah.
When we were training for the Bay of Pigs.
So was he in Dealey Plaza that day, as far as you know?
Yes, Montoya was, yeah.
Did you see what he was doing, or have you any idea why he was there?
We were all just standing around like with our hands in their pockets and talking to each other,
Yeah.
They,
Okay.
Nobody really played a part they didn't have a part of the assassination.
Yeah.
As far as I knew, Charles Nicoletti and I were the only 2 shooters. If they had other shooters, I didn't know about
Yeah.
it. I wasn't filled in on it. I wasn't a brief
Yeah.
on it.
So
But all I
Howard
can say is if they had other shooters, they had the sorriest shooters in the world.
Yeah. So
They
E. Howard
couldn't even
Hunt.
hit the limo. They hit the bridge, the lights, and everything else, but they didn't get their main target.
Yeah. Did you
Two
see?
people I know of that hit the target was Charles Nicoletti and myself.
Yeah. Did you see E. Howard Hunt there that day?
And, he was there, but I didn't see him.
The Novo
I know he
Sampol
was there. I
brothers.
heard the guys talking about him. Pardon me?
Did you see the Novo Sampol brothers?
The
Ignacio
Sample
and
brothers,
they were there?
they were there.
Okay. Did you see Eladio del Valle?
That name don't ring a bell with me.
Okay. There are photos of George Bush Jr., George Walker Bush, there that day. At least the photos they claim was him. Did you see him? He was like a teenager.
I wouldn't have known him if he was there. I wouldn't have known him anyway.
No. I've had people testify saying that Sam Giancana was staying at the Adolphus Hotel when the hit was done, together with Richard Kane, his hitman. Is this something you know
Right.
about? They stayed
But I
there.
didn't see Richard Kane. I didn't see Richard Kane there. Richard Kane was a Chicago detective,
Yeah.
and Sam was in Mexico, and he come back in. When he called me that morning, he was on the street corner. He was mad as could be, and his orders was he did not want to see that son of a bitch have lunch that day. And he died at Kane died at Little Rose's restaurant there on Division Street in Chicago.
Yeah.
Across from-
But Sam Giancana stayed at the Adolphus Hotel that day. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Herminio Diaz Garcia, is that a name that rings a bell?
I knew a lot of Garcias.
Yeah.
Garcia was a very
David-
common name.
David Sanchez Morales. David Morales.
Yeah.
Was he there that day?
Yes.
Was he the driver of Ruth Payne's car, as far as you know?
That I don't know.
No. Okay. So Tony
I tried
Izquierdo.
not to get involved with anybody there, and I tried to stay on my theater of operations where I was at in the railroad yard and right there by the picket fence. And I send these people to the scope, and I only see them briefly. and I had no contact with him, no eye contact or anything. I made eye contact to George Bush when I was leaving.
So, Tony Izquierdo, is that a name you?
Who?
Tony Izquierdo.
That I don't recognize the name.
Okay, Pedro Diaz
I might have known
Lance.
him back.
Lance.
Pardon me?
Pedro Diaz Lance. Lance. Pedro Diaz Lance.
I don't recognize that name either.
Okay, Felipe Vidal Santiago. He also went under the name of Charles Morgan. Felipe Vidal
Morgan.
Santiago.
I can't place.
The thing is that many of these guys were part of Operation 40, but just like you say, you were working under aliases and different names. So,
And not all of 40 was in Dealey Plaza that day.
Exactly. So
there's only a few people from Operation 40. Like I didn't see Barry Shields there that day, and he was part of Operation 40.
Who was that, please?
Barry Shields.
Yeah. So I just have a few more names regarding this thing. Lucien Sarti, is that a name that you recognize? Lucien Sarti.
No, I don't recognize the name.
Harry Weatherspoon. No,
that
I don't
name
think.
Sounds familiar, but I can't put a face with it.
Mac Wallace.
He was around there somewhere. Did I see him? No, but allegedly, from what I've been told, he was in the book depository.
Jose Sanjanis Perdomo.
No, don't recognize him.
What about Felix Rodriguez? I mean, he ought to have been in Dallas, I think, knowing who he is, but I've never heard any testimonies about him being there.
No, I didn't see him there. I can't even place him.
Okay. Can I fire on with more questions?
Go ahead.
Okay, so could you tell me the difference between Operation 40, Group 40? As far as I know, that's exactly the same, just two different names for the same.
They're the same group.
Yeah.
There's only one Operation Group 40.
Yeah. So were you also called AMOT, AMOTs? That you had code names AMOT, AMOT?
I don't know.
As code names of Operation 40? Not that you know of. So could you?
It's been a long time and I've forgotten a lot of it.
Of course. So what is the difference between Operation 40 or Group 40 and ZR Rifle Project?
I don't think there's any difference at all.
It is the same, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm very happy to hear that. So, is there anything you want to tell us about the death of David Ferry? Because it seemed like
died of a brain aneurysm.
I know that, but is there anything?
Fell through the palate of the mouth.
Yeah. Is there anything?
Why would they use a file? Because it has a rough edge on the sides of it. It's not like a knife. A knife has a smooth side, so you would not get a tear. With a fingernail file, it looks like a tear in the brain aneurysm when it goes to the palate of the mouth. How do you get the fingernail file inside the guy's mouth? When you pop in both sides of his ears, and he opens that mouth, and you jam the file right up in there, and it goes right through the palate. And you only have a drop or two drops of blood inside the roof of the mouth, and you put your thumb in there and you wipe the blood away. When they examine it at the coroner's office, there's a tear in the brain cell. It's not an even cut, it's a tear.
What was the reason why he was the reason he was taken out? Was that because he was a big mouth and he was in contact with Garrison?
Yes, he was taken out, yes, he was taken out. And his apartment, when he was taken out, was filled with monkeys and mice and rabbits and everything else, in there that they experimented with for cancer.
Yeah. So, and the very same day, Eladio Del Valle was also killed with a hatchet to the head, and did I know that that your friend Gary Marlowe may he rest in peace. Now that you have said earlier on that he was the guy that took out J.D. Tippett,
Right.
witnesses.
They were friends down there in Florida, Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That. Did you know J.D. Tippett personally yourself?
No, I did not. But he was with John C. Grady in World War II, and he was airborne. He was with intelligence also. John C. Grady was the historian for the 82nd Airborne.
Mhm.
So some witnesses saw two shooters, and there was also two different calibers or two different ammo used at the murder, the shooting of J.D. Tippett. Have you any idea about who the second person that was there that day? Did
I only
Gary
know about
ever?
Gary Marlowe.
Yeah, but this really messed with him, didn't it? That he had to silence somebody that he knew and was a friend.
Well, here's the thing. He was all told not to be spotted in Dallas, not to be known that he was there. He was another one that didn't exist at that time. When J.D. Tippett saw the Raven, he got out of the car, and the reason he never pulled his gun was he went to meet a friend, and his friend pulled a .38 and shot him.
Yeah. Rough.
It's not rough. It's just like you can ask Mike what they call dog week. We had to shoot our own dogs in the service, and then we had to put them back together. Take the round out and stitch them up. You learn to shoot. It doesn't matter whether it's a friend or whether it's your relative or whatever. When you have to kill somebody, you kill them. You didn't think about it. You just done it. Come natural.
But it didn't really come natural to Gary, did it? Because he really, I think, got messed up emotionally.
It bothered him, but he followed orders.
Did you ever meet, were you ever in contact with a doctor called Altan Oshner?
No, I did not.
Clay Shaw?
No, I don't remember the doctor's names.
No, Clay Shaw wasn't a doctor, but...
I had time with them there at Fort Meade.
He asked about Clay Shaw. Tell him about Clay Shaw that you didn't meet him until after.
Yeah, I didn't meet Clay Shaw until afterwards.
But you did meet him along in your career.
The doctors I was in contact with was at Fort Meade, and I don't remember their names.
James, when
instead of going up in an elevator, we went down in an elevator. Then we went sideways.
James, I know that you really, really, really worshipped your friendship with Chucky Nicoletti and him as a person. Yes. So when he was taken out, what was your? Can I ask you about your reaction when that happened? Because also you must have felt that hit indirectly pointed at you as well. He was
that
just
morning,
about.
Chuck and me was together. We were together at 16th and Division Street in Veterans Park. And we got out of the car and we walked around with our hands up side of our mouth so they couldn't read her lips or anything because we knew the FBI was watching. And Chuck assured me he was staying home that night. And I took my wife and I went to the Maywood Park racetrack. When I got out and I got back to the restaurant that I owned, the Coffee Cup there on Lake Street, I think it was 1213 West Lake Street. And about 10:30, Charles Nicoletti, no, not Charles, but Jackson Simpson, he come running in, telling me, Jimmy, he shot Chuck, they hit Chuck. And they got into Gold Horns and he's at the North Lake Hospital. So Jack Simpson drove me to the North Lake Hospital and the FBI had the place surrounded and they wouldn't let me in. And I wound up punching one of them. Jack wound up handcuffing me and driving me away from there, telling the FBI that I was under arrest because he had to get me out of there because the FBI wanted to arrest me. And that they told me that Chuck talked before he died, and I don't believe that. He would not talk to the FBI. He had no use for the FBI. But a few people in town, they left town that night because Chuck got hit because they knew that I would be in a uprage over it. But I didn't care who shot him. But if they shot him and I knew who it was, believe me, they was going to die before daylight come.
Yeah. Have you ever found out who it was?
No, I never did. But
Yeah.
it was the government that actually killed Chuck, because who it was that pulled the trigger, I don't know.
No.
But they killed George D. Schmidt, or whatever his name was, in Dallas that morning. And then that night they killed Charles Nicoletti.
George de Mohrenschildt.
George Mohrenschildt.
Yeah, exactly. He's said to have committed suicide, not.
Yeah.
But also, if I can just get confirmation that you were at the airport the night Sam Giancana died, or the afternoon, and you saw Rosselli there as well, and then
Excuse me.
you
Go back up to Sam Giancana now. What did you say where I was at?
Yeah. Okay, so the day or the night when Sam Giancana was killed, you saw Rosselli at the airport, and you drove
Right.
more or less together with him, and you saw that he turned off towards Sam Giancana's house. Is that correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
in your
And
opinion,
Johnny Rosselli was traveling with another party, and he dropped them off at the Blue Horizon, which is the tavern and motel there on River Road and River Road in Belmont.
is that
And he
the other
dropped
party?
them
The other party
Yes.
that he dropped off, is that the guy that was also found murdered at the same time as Rosselli?
That's right. They were traveling companions. Yes.
So, do you know who took Rosselli out? Because I know that it was done by a gun that was later traced to the CIA. But do you know who did the hit on Johnny?
The government took him out. The government killed Johnny Rosselli. They killed Sam Giancana, Charles Nicoletti, and Jimmy Hoffa.
Hmm.
It was all under government orders.
So, if it's okay if I jump to some other cases, because
Yeah,
how
go right
many
ahead.
countries? I know since your job has been assassinations, how many countries have you been active in over the years? Do you know?
I didn't count them, but quite a few. There's a lot of them. And I did
What
quite
are
a
we-
bit of work in Eastern.
Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
So are we talking
But I've been
5
in
or
all places,
10?
Eastern Europe, Africa, and they've had me all over. I've been in a lot of places, but I never kept track of them.
You
I
told
went to
me
countries
once,
that didn't even know existed.
you said regarding South Africa, you said once, look into the Blue Train massacre. I've been
Right.
trying to look
Mhm.
I've been trying to look into it. I haven't found anything with that name except a movie where it's about that the ANC knocked out the whole government of South Africa. But what are you referring to, and what is it you would? Why is that the incident of interest?
Oh, well, it should be because it was carried out by the. Well, I signed NDAs. I'm not supposed to say a whole lot about that stuff like that.
In what country are we talking about, though? South Africa.
We're talking about South Africa, yes.
Rhodesia.
What, any year? Because I haven't been able to find anything about.
Earlier, it would be 91, probably 90 or 91. 90 or 91.
So there's this guy, Michael Vernon Townley, that I know that you worked together with when it came to the hit on Orlando Lettier in Washington, D.C., among others. And
Michael Townley, yeah.
yeah, is it correct that he told?
Townley in Chile. Plus, I didn't work with him in the United States because it was illegal, but I did work with Michael Townley in Chile.
Was that
Michael
was he
Vernon
part? Was he part of the Allende coup? Was it? Because I know that
He was part of the coup. He worked for the CIA, which was the secret police in Chile, and he was also an agent for the CIA.
Yeah, and I know that he took out the poet, the Nobel Prize winning poet Pablo Neruda, that he dressed up like a doctor and that he poisoned Pablo Neruda. But was he? I know that you.
About that.
I know that that you said that you were there when Allende died, or that you saw him dead that day.
Yes.
Can you tell us anything about that day? What actually happened to? I mean, it said that he committed suicide.
He was offered to take his palace guard, his family, and his money and leave and go live in exile. And he said, I refused to. He said, I love my beloved country and I love the people. I will not leave them. And he died on the staircase that night.
But he was executed, correct?
No, well, I don't know what you want to call it. He was shot and killed there on the stairway.
Yeah, but not by himself.
He was fighting.
He was fighting. He had to have SMG in his hands when he died.
He had a weapon, and the
SMG
guys
is a
left
small
the steps
machine.
shot.
Yeah.
So,
All I had there was he was a pretty good guy.
yeah.
He was a hell of a lot better than Pinochet was.
So, is it? I'm just want to get it confirmed because these are such important things that at one point you were furious with Castro, all the failed attempts on him, and you said, "Let me do it. I can go in and get this done once and for all." And then Michael Van Townley said,
"Let me do it."
and then Townley said to you, "Listen, Jimmy, you have to understand, Castro is one of ours. He's CIA." Is that correct? Because this is like mind-blowing when you think of it.
He didn't say Castro was one of us. He just said that Castro and the CIA was in bed together. And that was because on the Isles of Youth, was where all the drugs, the heroin was being refined. It was being brought in from the Golden Triangle, which is in Southeast Asia, which is in upper part of Burma there. And excuse me. And that's why they wanted Castro. They took Batista out of power because he wanted too much of the pie. And they had Castro they put in. The CIA, don't forget, the CIA put Castro into power.
So why?
Castro was in Melrose Park in 1958.
Why?
He come there to see Rocky Collada.
So why the embargo against Cuba? Was that just a theater play of psychological operation?
So then there would be no tourists and nobody would be writing about the drugs coming out of Cuba over there. Because the drugs left Cuba from the Isles of Youth. They went across the strait there, which is a short ride, 45 miles, I believe, to the Yucatan. And they travel west through the Yucatan into Mexico. And once they hit Mexico, they turned to the right and they went north. And it picked up the name Mexican Mud. And that was the heroin. Because heroin was the big drug at that time.
Anyway, I'm really grateful, James, for these answers and confirmations. So I will have you a little rest by a breathing moment here. So if the rest of you want to ask anything.
I'm using a lot of oxygen right now, a lot of air in my lungs.
Ole.
Yeah.
After this long list, the one that really stood out to me was one of the last calls that we did. Will you expand on because, and as we've agreed that in the past, you know, I'm no JFK researcher compared to you, okay? And Jimmy, most of the stuff I know has been through his eyewitness testimony to me, like on phone calls and then at his house, and he's been to my house and all that kind of stuff. So he knows about the compartmentalized stuff that he was involved in, and like, you know, Chauncey Holt being with the other two tramps, you know, in the boxcar and stuff, the explosives that were in there for the distracting bomb that they didn't use, all that kind of stuff. Some of that stuff he was not aware of then. He found out later. But one thing that really interested me was one of your last shows with Michael where you talked about Walter Tabinski. Am I pronouncing his name right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is so clear on the Zapruder film that he was wearing body armor on the outside of his clothes, because I've worn a vest like that I wore one for a while in the Marine Corps and for 8 years in the state police. And he had a weapon up. JFK reaches up to his throat just as the weapon is up, and then he lowers the weapon and then actually drops his left hand down by his side, and he's got a pistol of some sort in his hand. That's not something that Jim would have been privy to. I noticed he said that he didn't recognize his name. But to me, I've heard Jimmy and Bruce Brychek talk about where they think the throat wound came from. Now, digress a little bit, and there's somebody we haven't talked about, but Robert Clayton Buick was in prison with Roselli for several years. And he had been sentenced, not Roselli, but Buick had been sentenced to 20 years. And he interviewed Roselli for hundreds of hours, and they bugged their cells and their workplaces, and the feds collected a lot of information in these interviews. And then Robert Clayton Buick got out of prison early because he told the feds about that's what I'm in conversation with Robert Buick. He said, I want you to think about this. And he told me something. I said, so you got out of prison early because of you telling the feds about this? And he goes, that's correct. So, but here's the thing. Roselli told Robert Clayton Buick that the shot from the front came from up on the overpass on the left side as you look down the road, and that Roselli told him it was Marshall Cafano. Now, I know Jim is adamant that it wasn't Marshall. And something I noticed that Marshall wore really thick glasses. He was kind of a short, but he was a rough and tough guy. He was kind of a hit man, and he ended up running, what was it, Las Vegas, Jim, for the outfit?
No, Frank Colado. Yeah, Marshall Cafano run Las Vegas for a while.
Yeah. So, but Jim is adamant, and Bruce Brychek, I've seen stuff from him too, that Marshall was not a shooter that day. But so I'm trying to think of, well, I've seen a photograph where what looks like a bullet hole in the windshield of the limo. And now I've seen Walter Dubinsky come up with what appears to be a pistol right at the time where he brings up to his throat. Now, there are pictures with holes in his back. So in your opinion, was the hole in his throat, was it the exit wound from a shot from behind, or was it a shot in the throat? And was it Walter Dubinsky's shot?
Yes.
And if it was, why wasn't he was shooting at an angle? Why wasn't there an exit wound right over here? Because he was shooting at that's just a question.
First of all, Jim, thank you. I've been pointing this shooter out for the last 20 years. Nobody has reacted. This is a dude with full body armor, shooting stance, the whole shebang.
Yep.
3-4 meters from JFK at the time where he goes like this. When you compare the sound, you can hear boom. And right when Kennedy goes like this, that's also when he's behind the sign and there's a cut in the film. But you can see Walter Dubinsky like that, boom, and down, very relaxed. And then afterwards, there's a photo of him where the photo is taken of something else, the people running towards the grassy knoll, who is right in the front, walking very calmly across the street with full body armor, and then he grabs a bicycle and takes off north on Houston. The thing is that the people that were involved in this whole thing, it was completely compartmentalized. Not even E. Howard Hunt on his deathbed knew the bigger picture. He knew his part. They knew their part. There were multiple teams that day. Nobody knew about each other. There was a lot of confusion going on among these, but it was by design.
So tell us who Walter was and what his role was. But to me, I've never seen that before. But when you pointed it out, to me, it is so
obvious.
It's so obvious. What I can't understand, though, is if he hit him in the throat right here, why there wasn't an exit wound right here. That's all.
Exactly. Yeah. And so the reason, because I didn't see Walter either. I mean, I looked at the Zapruder movie 1,000 times, never noticed. I was looking at Kennedy, not above him.
Right.
And then there was this woman, her name was Haley Otis, that contacted Professor Jim Fetzer, who is a friend of mine. And she started calling him, and I have about 100 hours recorded phone calls with her on my website, lightonconspiracies.com. Just check. I mean, I see James as one of the most important witnesses in modern times. I see her as a supplement also, because she was Uh, Her cousin, Clyde Forshaw, who, in my opinion, is one of the other shooters that is to the left of James, by a car standing like this. The car is reversed out towards the wall, and then he's standing like this. He never fires a shot. As far as I know, the only one that fired from the grassy knoll area was James. No one else, but there were shooters. But I'm sure their orders was do not fire if it's not absolutely necessary. So just because no shots were fired doesn't mean there weren't shooters, because in my opinion, he was surrounded. It was a massive ambush that day. And anyway, so Haley Otis told in great detail. She had, I think they've taken her out now because we haven't heard from her for years. But anyway, she had like a photographic memory. If you asked, like, what was the weather like Tuesday, the 6th of October, 1962? Well, it was gray and it was rainy and it was just like it happened yesterday. Unbelievable clarity when it came to these things. And her cousin, Clyde Forshaw, or it was her boyfriend, I think. She grew up together with him. And his cousin, Walter Tubinsky, was part of, I believe, a very similar, if not the same, program that you were, James, from birth, more or less. They were raised from these scientists from Operation Paperclip and made into assassins from a very, very early age. And in one of these recorded phone calls, I have all of them on my website, as I said. She's talking about Walter Tubinsky coming home after they were bragging about the whole thing. Haley Otis was involved, but didn't know what she was involved in. She was also the girlfriend of Charles Frederick Rogers, the tramp, the one in the front, Frenchie, who was later one of the people that were grooming James Earl Ray for the assassination of Martin Luther King as one of the possible patsies. But anyway, so she overheard Clyde Forshaw and Walter Tubinsky her whole life talk about. She saw them murder people. They have a hit list of about 1,000 people each, if what she says is true. And I've never been able to find anything that was not super accurate that she said. But she said that after one night, Walter started bragging about what he did in Dealey Plaza. And that was the first time I started looking for him at all. You know, he couldn't, like, after the first shot, just dive down and hide, but just like, and couldn't move. So it entered his throat. I mean, if you look at it, it's such an easy shot. The vehicle is moving so slow. It's like, what is it, 12, 15 feet from it's nothing.
Yeah,
and
close.
So he's hit him straight here, very low powered. So it just entered. It did not exit. There's no exit wound whatsoever. Tiny little thing. And Kennedy went like this. This is what we see. I have synchronized the Zapruder movie with the sound recording we have from the police radio equipment, and you can see exactly when bolt goes up like that, and boom, and then he just drops it very relaxed, like just another day at the office, like you, James, who, I mean, it was for you take out the garbage. You weren't either also. I mean, you guys are of another caliber human beings, like completely unbelievable. But anyway, and so he said that he had used a special gun and that was his task. And he was also the guy that said, and then he walked straight across the road, very calmly took the bicycle and took off. So this is the first time I've ever heard about Walter Tubinsky. That name has never, ever occurred. And then Haley also pointed out and sent me photos of Walter Tubinsky, and that's the guy who's coming out from the embassy in Mexico City, being identified as Oswald. He's in the JFK movie. They're holding up this photo saying, who is this dude? We don't know. Walter Tubinsky. He lives in Toronto, if he's still around. We exposed him. We really feared for Haley's life. She was in her apartment, and they were outside, and she was terrified. They had threatened to kill them. I got Jim Fetzer and myself right away on a 3-hour interview what was the name of the show? I can't really remember, but we did it live and exposing, saying Haley Otis this and this and this. And if anything happens to her, it would be Clyde Forshaw or Walter Topinski from Toronto, this address. And if she is finally found dead, it's them. And so they disappeared. She survived that thing, but then after a while, she disappeared.
Let me.
We never heard from her.
I want to pose this question too, and I've asked Jim this question a couple times. Specifically, what I asked him was was the Umbrella Man some kind of marker for you? So to make that clear, what's your answer to that, Jim?
My answer was no.
Yeah, right. That's what he told me. So I'm asking you now, who was the Umbrella Man? Was he a marker for the Secret Service driver, William Greer, to slow down right there? Or what? Who was he working for? Was he just the marker? Because James is the primary backup shooter. He's the guy that ends up really taking the fatal shot, and he had no idea about the Umbrella Man. So who was the Umbrella Man a signal for? Because...
Okay. So over the years, I managed to, as far as I know, identify this guy to every single one of them. Very few people agree with me. I can only say that this is a massive part of my life, and I put my name to it. So the guy that holds the umbrella, boom, 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 like this, his name is Roy Hargraves. He was very close to Operation 40. He was one of these people working close to the Bay of Pigs, the whole shebang. A lot of these guys are like this, just like James said. Also, there's all of these Cubans and all of these people there. His name was Roy Hargraves. I don't think that he was aware of what he was doing, because he was putting himself in a very dangerous position. But that his task was, I think he was only told, when the limo passes, or stand exactly here and flap the umbrella. That's your task, nothing else. I mean, like if you hear Chauncey Hall, who delivered the Secret Service badge, he had no idea that there was going to be a hit. He had no idea. And boom, 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 the shots were fired. He was like, whoa, and went to the boxcar, which he had been instructed if anything went wrong. So compartmentalization, once again, for security from everybody involved also. But so it's like nobody knows the bigger picture except people like Lansdale, for instance, I think was like one of the ones that really had an overview. And so, but anyway, so where was it? The Umbrella Man. His task was to show the cross point. This is where the killing zone starts. There was even painted yellow on the sidewalk in the kill zone, because you couldn't have like 32 shots going off with shooters from boom, 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 if they fired, because they had to blame it on one individual, like 3 shots, 6th floor. So they couldn't have like this. It had to be, and then you could say, well, echo and this and a car misfired, whatever, but one shooter. So that was his task. You had Felipe Vidal Santiago, who's the Cuban, right in front of him, who takes a step out. You can see on the photo, he's like waving, but he's stepping out in front of the limo. I think that is also to be part of slowing it down. The one major question for me is Bill Greer from the Secret Service. Like, what on earth was going on with this dude? And so we are in a situation where mind control is being used in these operations. I would suggest, is that possible? Or had they taken somebody in his family hostage, or something that would put him as a driver to start with in a vehicle that would be hailed by bullets? That on its own is like not safe, but also to slow down and wait for the kill shot and then take off. I mean, that guy was in on it for whatever reason he had, I don't know, but this person was a major part of the whole thing, because they needed Kennedy dead. There could not be like any mistakes made. That is why they were so.
Let me ask Jimmy one last question before it looks like it's about time for him to go. But we promised him just an hour. Jimmy, of all the people that died mysteriously, Jim Morris talked about a list of 103 people. We have a Clinton, death body list and so forth. Were any of your team involved in like taking out people that were threats like that? Because J.D. Tippett was a good example.
Yes.
Yes.
Simple answer is yes.
Would you want to go into more detail about that?
No, I would not.
Especially around
No, but-
Garrison's investigation.
That's a
Well, I
huge.
was in Stateville.
Yeah.
Stateville. Jim Garrison, they called up at there and they got hold of Salvatore Godinez, which is Tony Godinez, which was the warden of Stateville Prison, which is maximum security. And they wanted to talk to me. He called me to his office. And on the telephone, they said, we want to come and talk to you about David Ferry. And I told him, save your jet fuel. Into that.
But you also really disliked David Ferry, didn't you? As far as I have understood.
Pardon me?
That you really also disliked Dave Ferry for what he was
I didn't
doing.
like David Ferry at all. No, I did not.
No.
And I saw him once in Dragon. He was the ugliest broad I ever seen.
James, can I ask you? When I've looked at assassinations around the world, when they're sort of like with hit teams of specialists and paramilitary soldiers of fortune, it's like there's this homosexuality, bisexual theme that keeps recurring, where it's like it's very confusing to me because in one way they seem almost like right-wing Nazi type things, and on another thing they're involved in this homosexual style, Dave Ferry, Clay Shaw, that whole thing. I'm asking,
They use that in order to blackmail people into doing things that the people don't want to do.
But is there a tendency where people that live by the gun and live by force and violence, that they resent the female soft energy and are attracted to more brutal masculine energy? Is there anything like that?
That I wouldn't know about.
No, it's
I
very
normally worked
confusing.
alone. I didn't have to put up with anybody.
Yeah.
Hey, Ole,
Compartmentalized. Everything's really compartmentalized. Yeah.
I might could get James to make a comment on this, and Jim, if you will, and just say no if you don't want to talk about it. But one of the reasons that he didn't cooperate with Oliver Stone, he asked him why he cavorted with his aides that were they appeared to be open. Yeah, they appeared to be openly gay, and he asked him. He said, "Why do you surround yourself with people like this?" And apparently, Oliver Stone admitted to him he was bisexual, and that sort of ended the business relationship between Jim and Oliver Stone. And am I right that's why you didn't sign the document? You got up and walked out of the room.
Correct. That is fine.
Yeah.
But he tried to get me on film when I was in prison at Stateville, and I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And what I said to Oliver Stone was very nice.
Yeah.
Bob Vernon was sitting there in the chair that time, and Bob Vernon, he almost fell out of his chair when I said what I said.
So I can vouch for that. When you're in a group of alpha males, we don't deal with that at all. That is
not at all.
We don't like that. We don't. No.
And that, Michael, is why it's so confusing for me when I look into these things. And you in the center, it's like not once, it's there and there and there, and it's sort of like because it's the extreme opposite of what at least I would expect to find. I would expect to find exactly what you're talking about, but the inner core seems to be the opposite. I don't know. And then maybe on the street level, where you're more the tool of carrying out the operations, it is different.
I think it's like Jimmy was saying. I think they just blur the lines, and they just like they'll find kiddie porn on somebody's computer which wasn't there the day before. They do the same thing when they're trying to destroy somebody's credibility and their background and their history. They just come in and do something like that. It's probably what that is, I think.
It's easy to frame people. Just like there's somebody that I wanted to get rid of inside the Chicago mob. I wanted to get rid of this one guy because they had no use for him, and I couldn't. They detested him, and they wouldn't give me a sanction hit on him. So him and his wife had went to a movie. The guy that I wanted to frame went to the movie one day, and I burglarized his house, and I took some hairs in the bathroom, and I took a couple of cigarette butts, and I took an empty cigarette pack, and I had gloves on, so I would get my fingerprints on them. I put it all in a little bag I had, and then I went and I did the job I wanted to do. And this other guy, I left the hairs on the back of the headrest and the back seat, the cigarette butts outside the car, the cigarette pack was crushed and thrown over in the back seat. And so when they got the car and the guy was killed, they took this guy, they sent him to prison in Illinois here. They gave him a life sentence. And so I got rid of two guys with one stone. I think the guy did something like 18 years before he ever got it overturned and got out.
Allegedly.
Much for not sending anybody
And I
to
did
prison.
25 years on my case for having to shoot out with the law.
So James,
And I did every day.
you said that a friend of yours did the killing of Martin Luther King. Was he, would you mind telling us about as much as you can about what he said about that? Where was he low position inside the fire station, or where?
He just told me that he's on the job, and he told me where he was at, and he's still alive. So I won't go into details on it at this time.
No, it's for us. It's very easy to know who he is. But I was just, what position did he say that he was in? The sound was a little bit blurry.
Another grassy knoll. They're right across the street from the motel.
Did he say anything about?
And I took them there and I showed them and ran everything down to them, and I made a video of it.
I'm sorry, the sound was blurry again. It's every time we talk about sensitive things, it's like whoop. Could you repeat that, please?
I took my wife there. I took Pamela there a couple of years ago. 3 years ago, 4 years ago, whatever it was. And a friend of mine that lives there in Tennessee, I took him there and I showed them that and explained the whole rundown to them and how it went down. And made a video of it while I was there.
Is that
like Dealey Plaza, Jim, with Dealey Plaza with the story they're going to release about me one of these days. They got over 30 hours of tape. Professional camera people.
So is that the video you did about the MLK case, is that available anywhere, or is it going to be part of this documentary?
That I don't know. They got 30 hours of tape, a film that they can use. And
No, he's talking about the one from Martin Luther King.
Oh, the Martin Luther King. No, that's not part of the MLK. I'm just telling you what my friend told me that he didn't. He explained it, and they ran it all down to me. And he didn't have a getaway driver. He worked alone, as I did the majority of my cases. He worked alone, and he got in his car and he drove away when it was all over with.
But James Earl Ray didn't do it.
James Earl Ray did not kill Martin Luther King.
No, God, no. But that whole operation is also completely compartmentalized because there were multiple teams on location there, not knowing about each other. At least that is, I put many, many years looking into that one as well. So, but anyway, I'm very, very grateful for you sharing this information with us, James. And yeah.
And while we've got that up, I'd like to, just for the audience's sake, that's the website, and it'll be posted. I think Michael's going to put it under the show after it's, but it's JFK Murder, jamesfiles.weebly.com. And if you want to buy one of the books that details a lot of this information, Primary Target JFK, you can get it on that website. You can get an autographed copy. And also, if you want to help Jim and Pam, there's a support and donate thing that it'll come up with that picture right there. That's on the grassy knoll, right? The picket fence is right behind him. You can send them a note. You can donate a few dollars to help them out. They're living on Social Security and book sales, and as you might imagine, James didn't have a lot of Social Security built up, being in prison for 25 years. So, but he served this country for 28 years and did a lot of things for the CIA. He also moonlighted for the mafia, and he could set the record straight if we could get President Trump to give him a pardon and immunity from prosecution, and get him in front of some TV cameras and give him the opportunity to tell the truth and kind of set the record straight, so he didn't have to violate non-disclosure agreements with the agency and all that stuff. So if President Trump or any of his staff members, Congress, either should have the opportunity to interview the man that took the fatal shot on John F. Kennedy from the grassy knoll. And the other thing too is, it's crazy not to put him on television and give him the opportunity to do that and tell the story. And then if you want to discredit him all you want, try to knock yourself out, but let him tell the story with immunity, so that, and he could tell the story in such detail that everybody would then, would understand what really happened and understand completely that part of what he did was compartmentalized, and he doesn't know every single detail of the whole story. Nobody does. I mean, I could ask you a question about some high school football game you went to 2 weeks ago, and you could only remember the part about what you saw and what your role was. Other people would have seen maybe even a different game, But
amazing, Jimmy's memory. Jimmy, were you ever trained in memory retaining things?
Oh yeah, but Jim, when they had their website up there, explained to him, I'm also going to put some artwork up there, which is going to be a picture of Jackie Kennedy crying after the Kennedy was shot.
Can you pull that picture up, Michael?
No
I sent it.
That I did while I was in prison.
While he's talking, I'll try and pull it back up.
Yeah. So James is going to they're going to do a limited edition. He was into artwork when he was in prison, and he did a colored pencil drawing of Jackie Kennedy and her anguish after he was sitting in prison for a while. You were on lockdown at the time, weren't you, Jim?
Yes, I was. And I was also on lockdown when I did the oil painting of John F. Kennedy. Yeah,
so he did these paintings, and they're actually really, really good. But the one of I don't know if you can put it up or not, but it's they're going to do a limited number of these, and they're going to be copied on acid-free paper, and they're going to be larger than the originals. They're going to be signed and numbered and autographed by James Files, and it's actually a very good. I mean, I didn't know until after I met him and saw these things that he was such an artist, but that's it right there. And that gleam in her hair that you can see is not the gleam of light off his computer. That's drawn in on the original. But if they're going to, I don't know if Pam's decided yet how many they're going to do, but they're going to do a limited number of those that are signed and numbered and autographed by James. And I would say that piece of artwork will be very valuable in the future.
Yeah.
Can I also just say that, listen, folks, please understand what James and Pam have put themselves through and what position. It would have been so much easier. I mean, I can't even describe how much easier James's life and Pamela's life would have been had they not been standing up for the truth. They have been going through living hell many times to get, and still pushed forward, still been standing strong, still been serving this truth to the world for nothing except, most people in this research community are even turning their backs to him. I mean, I don't get it. It's like ridiculous. It is, because the thing is with James is that you are the key not only to the JFK assassination, but so many other major events in the world.
Yeah.
Major and key. And so whoever the president is, I mean, come on, get off your butt and make this happen and show us that you're the real thing. Because if you don't, I would say that shows something about you sitting in the White House, because this information needs to get out there and needs to get out there fast. So this is not a time to play with your belly button and do other stuff. This is of major importance. And I call him up, Donald Trump. If you don't do this, that shows that you have a different agenda. If you are who you say, then bring James, give him the platform, and help the rest of us come to closure and healing with so many events around the world that has been put. This world has ended up in a very dark place because of many of these things, these forces, and now there's a way out. And so please be generous also. That's what I want to say. Understand the price that has been paid and just don't take it for granted. And yeah, that was a good show. No, somebody put their lives on the line to get this information to you. So please be generous and support James and Pamela in this situation. Otherwise, it's ridiculous if we don't.
Right. All right, Jimmy. You gave us an hour. I appreciate it. You gave us a little over an hour. So thanks so much. And gentlemen, thanks so much.
Good night to all of you and to the audience, and I hope they enjoyed the show.
Absolutely. And Ole.
Go lay down.
All right. Thanks, brother.
Okay.
Salute
Good night,
you.
everyone. Good night.
And then lightonconspiracies.com for Ole. And we have a link for Jim Scott if you want to contact him by email in the description box as well.
I also want, I just want to say that this is not an overnight sensation for me to become aware of James Files. I've been really tracking him down and putting him under a magnifying glass since the mid 90s or something like that.
Yeah.
And I have never ever found him lying about anything. I know that the thing also which is interesting with him, I think, is that he's so not interested. He knows nothing about the JFK assassination. It couldn't be bothered. He fell asleep during the JFK movie. That tells you something. This is not if he was a fraud, he would be so well studied. He would be able to answer all the questions. He would be able to know the whole picture and serve it to you. So convincing. This dude did his part, had no clue about the rest. It's only through Pamela he's finding out stuff because he was not interested at all. He just did his part. So I'm just extremely grateful. I keep saying the same, but I am because, such courage to bring this forward.
Yeah, you've done great work, Ole. Amazing.
No, I'm talking about him.
Yeah, you doing the bringing him out, helping to bring him out. So there's we got a lot more reveals this time. Every time it's like just incredible reveals.
Okay, no, sorry, that was
part of, they were part of eliminating people that were going to bring out truth, just like JD Tippett. I mean, he saw somebody that was there, and boom, he's gone. So a lot of those people that were they are going to reveal, they were eliminated, like probably over 100. And the same thing with the Clinton kill list. That guys like Jimmy probably were tasked to take out a lot of those people too.
Can I interrupt if you got a little more time? Because I know, Jim, you asked me once if we could have like a private call and I just go through the different steps. I would very much love to, if I can just go step by step, the different individuals that I identified this day, if you would be interested, because this, I think, is fundamental. Once again, so many other people don't agree with me. What can I say? The truth is still the truth, whoever finds it. I can only say that I really put my anything on the identification of these individuals, okay? So, James Files, picket fence on the grassy knoll, 100%, boom. We got him. We got Chucky Nicoletti, second floor, together with Johnny Rosselli, in the Daltex building, let in by Hale Braden or Eugene Hale. Yeah, this guy. He had multiple identities, but there was an additional guy in there. I believe that George Bush Sr. was in the Daltex building when the shots were fired, then left and came out and was standing in front of the Daltex building. But so in that, on the second floor, you had also a dark-skinned individual who's looking out from under the fire stairs just after the shots are fired. If you enlarge these famous photos, that guy was Tony Izquierdo. Tony Izquierdo. He was the spotter. There's a statue even of him in Miami, Florida, among the exiled Cubans.
Was Tony the one on the fire escape, you think?
No, not on the fire escape. He's the guy looking out through the window.
Oh, okay.
There's one guy sitting on the fire stairs. No, it's underneath. He's standing. He's looking out to see how did it go. So
okay.
Shooter Chucky Nicoletti, Johnny Rosselli had backed out, but he was in the same room. Yeah. George Bush Sr., if I'm correct, was in the same room. Hale Braden was in the same room. That let them in and out. He was also the guy that was arrested outside or taken by the police. But the spotter was Tony Izquierdo. Okay, so on top of the building, on the Daltex building, there seemed to have been one shooter. I think his name was Harry Weatherspoon. He was part of the Dallas police force. And I think that his task was to take out a patsy. There is one manhole. What do you call these? You call it a manhole, don't you, with a lid?
Right.
There's one, you have the storm drench.
Storm drain.
Yeah, storm drain. Mm-hmm. By the grassy knoll. I believe there was a shooter there, possibly Frank Sturgis. But there's another one on the other side of the road. There's a manhole, and right next to the lid of the manhole, there's a shot. You can see there's a shot that people saw a ricochet. There's like a deep craving or whatever in the concrete. If you follow that, the angle of it goes straight up to the corner of the top of the Daltex building. And I think that there was a guy, what was his name? A young guy that was paid $50 who didn't know what he was doing, who was there. I think he was looking up from his task was to just be in that manhole and look up there. He was being set up. And that the idea was that he would be the one that would be blamed for the shooting. I mean, there's multiple options here, because if that shooter from the roof missed the limo with several meters, I mean, that is more or less impossible. If you have somebody in an operation like that, they would be good shooters. But here you have that it missed with just a few centimeters from whoever was in that, under that manhole, or under that lid. Speculation. But anyway, this guy is the guy that is seen, a young guy from Dallas, who's later seen with muddy pants and so on, because he was walking around in the drain. And some people says he was one of the shooters. I think he was an alternative patsy to Oswald. There were multiple people being prepared as patsies, which there always are in these big operations. Should something go wrong, then they just pick the next one or the next one. Or this goes live in these operations. Anyway, so there's some researchers that point out Rolando Masferrer on the other side of the Daltex building on the corner. I have never found anything on him there, but he was a super shot, and also involved in so many different assassination attempts. He was blown to pieces also. They blew up his car with him. But Rolando Masferrer, when you look in the JFK files, there's so many documents about this guy that should be really considered. So I have this folder called Rolando Masferrer. But I can't prove that he was there. I'm not sure. But anyway, if you then cross Houston Street, and you go over, this is where Jimmy said that all the Cubans were standing, which is also, when you see them, it's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's a very short street, but there's a lot of them there. So anyway, so if you cross the street, you will see in one of these photos, the black and white photos, right after the shots are fired, there's one guy hanging on the lamppost, like looking like this. That is David Sanchez Morales, Operation 40, one of the head dudes in Operation 40. He was there also when they took out Che Guevara together with Jimmy, and it's like the people in the CIA said, if you saw David Sanchez Morales anywhere in whatever country, you knew there's going to be a coup d'etat within or an assassination done. This was a violent individual who also died. He later died under mysterious circumstances at the time when all of these people were being called to give testimony and so on. But anyway, I believe, he's standing right next to a car that is parked on the wrong side of the road. We're talking Houston Street on the left-hand side of the road, aiming north. That is the car that is, as soon as the shots are fired, we have 3 people coming out on the back of the Texas School Book Depository. 2 jumps into the car that takes off, go north, and 1 keeps running down first from behind the Texas School Book Depository, and then down Houston, and then down Main towards the Adolphus Hotel, I believe, because that individual, people have said, Mac Wallace, I would strongly suggest his name is Richard Kane. He was a former Chicago police officer, but also hitman for the mob, and working closely with Sam Giancana. He was later assassinated as well. But he and Sam Giancana, just like James confirmed, that Giancana was staying at the Adolphus Hotel that day. And I believe that the Adolphus Hotel was actually the headquarters for this whole operation. It's just down the road, more or less opposite also Jack Ruby's club, the Carousel Club that used to be. But anyway, so we had David Morales down there. Then if you go, Lee Harvey Oswald was actually in the doorway, standing next to this guy called Billy Lovelady. When the shots were fired, he was down there. I believe that he was completely trying to stop the assassination. He was there blowing the whistle. He was trying everything he could, because he knew from July 29th, according to his girlfriend, Judy Sperry Baker, who's a dear friend of mine, that he was being set up as the patsy, that they were going to nail him for this one. But he sacrificed himself, even though he knew that this is what's going to happen. The way he reasoned was that if he blew the whistle, he had Marina and a newborn and another daughter. He had Judith. All of them could be, taken out. So he decided to stay and try and stop it instead. So he knew from almost 6 months before it happened, 5 months, that this was going to go down. And that's where you see all of these things. People are warning, or somebody is warning about it. The FBI, telex, the abortion group, not abortion, but abort group that flies in that day with Tosh Plumley, that whole thing, which is also, I think, the CIA's way of saying that if something failed, if the operation had failed and Kennedy had survived, then they would say, well, it was thanks to this team that we sent in here that managed to stop the assassination. So suddenly the CIA would be the heroes. I think that was part of the psychological operation. Tosh, he was just the pilot, but part of Operation 40 as well. He's still around. But anyway, so I believe that the car you see parked there is Ruth Payne, the woman where Marina was living, and also CIA operative. It's her car, and she drives the 2 of these people. He drives David Morales, drives them north, and then turns around, and is possibly the one that picks up Lee Oswald on the front of the Texas School Book Depository. When Deputy Sheriff Roger Craig hears somebody whistle, and then he sees this individual that he later identifies as Lee Oswald, jumps into this car. He sees this man, big black dude with dark complexion, that drives it. And this is the way that Lee Oswald managed to get out. I don't understand what happened from there to his boarding house on North Beckley. I don't know how, but I know that North Beckley, that house, when I was there, there were so many small rooms. I think it was 17 or 24 rooms in that villa like unbelievable. And like Lee's room was like just the size of a bed. But behind that house, according to some CIA operatives, is a safe house. So there's one building behind that villa. That's the one that is the most interesting, because that was being used for different operatives. And I think possibly this is the reason why Lee was placed in that house as well. But anyway, so we go into. So I believe that Lee's task was to cut the electricity in the Texas School Book Depository 1 minute before the shots were fired. That was his. Being also set up as a patsy, they wanted him in the building. So, and when you see where he was found, when the police ran into the school to the building, he's standing next to this vending machine and stuff. But it's also where the elevator is. They had this big industrial lift inside the Texas School Book Depository, and the three people that was observed by several witnesses on the 6th floor. How did they get down? How did they get down? Because we had people walking down the stairs saying nobody came there. Nobody was running down there. So how did the people that was observed there by multiple different witnesses get out? I think that they abseiled, that they what do you call it? This with ropes repelling on the inside of the elevator shaft.
Yep.
That was why the electricity was cut, so that nobody could crush them or whatever. So that it was down on the floor and boom, cut there. And these three guys, whoop. That's also why I asked James a while ago, were you trained in rappelling? And he said, yeah, we even did it from helicopters. So these dudes knew what they were doing. That's how they came out on the backside of the Texas School Depository so fast, never to be seen. Okay, so the three people up there, I have this from Cuban intelligence. The first guy, Eladio del Valle, who is a former Batista police officer and also informer, and who later became part of Operation 40. He is a major player in this whole thing. He was also the guy that got murdered the very same day Dave Ferry got murdered. And I think James knows a lot about that ending of a life. But Eladio del Valle. Then you have the second one, which people said were a semi-bald, black-skinned individual. His name is Arminio Diaz Garcia. Arminio Diaz Garcia, top assassin, Operation 40. He was part of attempts on different prime ministers and dictators in South American countries and so on. He was like a very, very skilled assassin. There's like a few videos about him where they point him out and they say Arminio Diaz Garcia could be the second shooter, but they're pointing at the wrong person in the photo. They're zooming in on the wrong person. He is the guy to the furthest to the left with a dark complexion. That is Arminio Diaz Garcia. This I have also from Cuban intelligence, where they tracked these people. They were very aware of them, and they tracked them to this Dallas, because also there were so many exile Cubans involved in this operation and the Bay of Pigs. So the Cuban intelligence was very, very, very interested and saw the importance of exposing for themselves also who was actually involved in this whole thing. Then on the furthest to the left on the 6th floor, which was the window furthest to the left if you stand in front of the building, they saw that he had very marked, his glasses had very dark rimmed, is that what you call them? Rimmed, this whole thing. And he looks a lot like Mac Wallace, the henchman of Lyndon Johnson. I truly believe that it was Richard Kane. Richard Kane was the guy. They look very similar. And it's that this is also when he runs out from the back of the hotel, when he runs to the Adolphus Hotel, that is because he's going to Giancana. They're almost there's this mob starting to run after him because they think he's the guy to shoot. Once again, I don't think there were any shots fired from up there at all. We had multiple shooters around, but only a few were shooting. So Chucky was one of the shooters for sure. James was another of the shooters for sure. I would strongly suggest the person we pointed out before, Walter Dubinsky, was another shooter, but his task was not to blow the head of Kennedy. That would have been so obvious right there, but it was to immobilize him so that there could be a kill shot from the book depository. Okay, so Walter Dubinsky is there. The guy behind him on the Zapruder movie, in a light gray, almost silvery colored suit with a hat like one of these Feodora or whatever you call them. I believe that is Orlando Bosch, who was also identified by James that he was there that day. Orlando, Dr. Death Bosch, he was involved in hundreds of terror attacks, real terror attacks, even blowing up civilian airliners, killing hundreds of people, together with Luis Posada Carillas, another one heavy dude in this Operation 40, involved in so much, these ones. And who was pardoning them and taking care of them? George Bush Sr., his whole career, using them his whole career. George Bush Sr., the paymaster of Operation 40, and recruiter as well. So Operation 40, E. Howard Hunt, David Atlee Phillips, Ted Shackley, and George Bush Sr. were the people around that started recruiting, like James Files, Gordon Ferry, these others. And one of them that James didn't recognize, Jose Sanjanis Perdomo, who was one of the highest ranking officers in Operation 40 for more than 10 years. I think maybe he went under another name. His code name was Amot-2. He was also the killer of John Lennon. He was the real shooter, the doorman that day. And the one that was the backup shooter of John Lennon was Clyde Forshaw, the guy we're going to come to soon, who's also one of the shooters and the cousin of Walter Dubinsky. Okay, so on this, we're done with the Texas School Book Depository. Then on the other side, you have Walter Dubinsky and Orlando Bosch, who's only there as watching, I think. He had no real function there. Then if you move to the left, you have Abraham Zapruder, who's filming. Then the closer we get to the grassy knoll, it's a very weird, the whole layout with the white walls, it's very bizarre or very unusual. I don't understand it, why they did this, but this is a very Freemasonic design of the whole Dealey Plaza. It is also where the first Freemasonic Lodge was located in Dallas, and you even have a white obelisk there. If you look at the whole layout of also the memorial, very Freemasonic. You got this, it's not an obelisk, but it's like a high tower with like a flaming ball. That is the symbol of Dallas, the Dallas skylight. Also very Freemasonic with the eternal. So I think when you walk around, when I walked around in Dallas, I was just like, oh my God, what is going on here? It's a dark place under the surface. Anyway, so we pass the Zapruder. We're now on the grassy knoll side, and then we come to the very first one is there's a car that Lee Bowers, the railroad worker who is up in the tower, the control tower for the trains, he saw that there were several cars driving around there. There were one black car with one guy. You see it in the Oliver Stone movie as well. One guy with a microphone driving around, just coordinating. Like this guy has been identified as Aldo Vera Serafin by Chauncey Holt. This was a Cuban, very, very skilled and fearless assassin also, who later also got terminated. But Aldo Vera Serafin is one of the guys driving around there. Then there's another one, a Chevy station. Was it a Chevy? I can't really. I've done shows where I've just focused on the different vehicles involved. But anyway, there was this station car that was actually owned by Haley Otis, the witness I was telling you about. It was her car that Clyde Forshaw, Roy Hargraves, and Walter Dubinsky came to. That is also one of the cars that that Lee Bowers sees. He said they had like a Goldwater for president or for governor or whatever sticker on the back, and it was all muddy. There had been a rainstorm the night before, and so it's that car. That car is reversed out. It's to the, if we take the position where James was standing, you have about like 12, 15 feet to the left. There's like the wall is coming out like this. That's where the car is reversed out, and you will see there's a shooter standing to it like that. You can see it from when you enlarge the film from the side. I can't remember who did this filming. You can see there's like a shooter like this following him. I don't think he shot anything, but that was Clyde Forshaw right there. And with anyway, so as soon as James' shots were fired, you can see that car has already. There's one photo where you see the Clyde turn around like he's starting to run. The car has already disappeared. So as soon as the shots fired, this car takes off, and then it disappears. Boom. The same with Aldo Vera Serafin. His car has also left early on. So they take off, and then we come to Badgeman, or Black Dog, he's also called, who is right at the corner of the wall. Makes this strange corner where Badgeman is hiding behind it, kneeling down with a rifle. He's no cap on, but a Dallas police uniform on black. And that's why he's called Badgeman, because you can see the badge in enlargement photos. Anyway, his name, Lucien Sarti. He was an assassin that was taken from Marseille in France and brought in on location through Carlos Gambino in New Orleans. He was one of their men in Marseille, but he was brought in. And he was also named by E. Howard Hunt on his deathbed confession. He said, a French shooter, Lucien Sarti. It's not only through E. Howard Hunt that I got this list from St. John, his son, which is a friend, but also I found his name again and again. Fearless assassin also, so fearless that he was careless, and that he was also killed later on. But sometimes these people are killed, but not. Like Perdomo, the guy that shot Lennon, was dead several years before, and then suddenly he's there. Adriano Diaz Garcia, that I pointed out before, he was killed in a shootout in Mexico City, and then somebody with his name and appearance and everything appeared years later. So it's like in this world of illusion, I mean, God knows. So anyway, so we have Lucien Sarti, then we have James Files standing by the tree. But before then, when the shots are fired and people start running up, we have a guy that in a normal suit that is holding up a Secret Service ID saying, go back, we've taken care of it. That's Bernard L. Barker, who was working closely with E. Howard Hunt, also one of the Watergate burglars. Okay, so we have Frank Sturgis identified by James down on that grassy knoll before the shots were fired. Where did he go? Nobody knows, but he claims that he shot Kennedy. Okay, so let's just take that seriously, because somebody was down the Stone Branch firing a shot at the same time. I think there was 3 headshots fired at the same time, more or less. Chucky hit Kennedy, according to Jim, just a hundredth of a second before. So his head was thrown forward, and then Jimmy hit him here instead of in the eye where he was zooming in. But there's also been done different X-rays and computer animations of that. There's a shot fired from down below, which is exactly where the Stone Branch is, which they very carefully filled up so that we couldn't examine it anymore. But I have footage down there and so on from that. And the thing is, when you walk around in Dealey Plaza, you will see that these manholes are connected. So you can, for instance, you can go up to the triple underpass, and by the triple underpass, there's 2 different entrances down there. So you can go down there and then appear from nowhere in the Stone Branch without anyone seeing you come in that way. There's also on the other side of the triple underpass, right on the other side of the triple underpass, where a witness saw there was like once the shots were fired, people saw somebody that they identified as Jack Ruby run from the Texas School Book Depository towards the triple underpass up on there. You can see on one photo he is like crawling up on it, but then we have a Dallas police officer who saw that he came on the other side of the triple underpass, threw something in the back of a car that was parked up on the side of the a little bit up on the grassy knoll, but on the other side of the triple underpass, and then jumped into the car and took off. So this police officer, Tillett, I think his name was, he turned around and started chasing this car, not knowing that it was Jack Ruby. And then after a while, he saw that it was Ruby, and Ruby looked all crazy. So he backed up because he said, I wasn't up to be getting shot. He didn't know what had happened. But anyway, if you look exactly where Ruby's car was parked, I've been there, it's right on top of one of these manholes. So is it possible that Jack Ruby parked his car there and was letting somebody came up underneath his car, rode out under, got into the back seat. Ruby took the rifle, and that's when he saw that he threw something in the trunk and then took off with possibly Frank Sturgis in the back seat when they took off. Speculation, I don't know for sure, but that is what I think happened. Then we have J.D. Tippett. J.D. Tippett's role, there were several people like Milwaukee Phil from the Chicago mob. We had J.D. Tippett. Their task was take Oswald out. He has to die on location. It has to be sealed and case closed minute 2 after the shots were fired. So the idea, I think, was that Oswald had been informed, get out on the back of the Texas School Book Depository, we will take care of you. But there's a woman who saw a new J.D. Tippett who said that he was standing on the back of the Texas School Book Depository, just like staring, like really like this. And I think his job was to silence Oswald, that he knew from their earlier military career and so on. And he was very nervous about that, also because maybe they were friends. I don't know how close they were. But anyway, so Oswald managed to escape the building, and that's when J.D. Tippett got complete frantic. You see his movements in the following hour. He's driving around. He's stopping cars. He's looking under the seats, opening the trunks, running around, being sweaty, making phone calls. He is frantically panicking, I think, because he knows his task was to silence Oswald, and he failed, meaning you're up against some very bad dudes if you fail. So I think he was in a panic mode driving around, and then he sees Gary Marlowe and stops, and what the hell are you doing? And boom, Gary Marlowe has been ordered. Nobody can understand that you're here. You're not allowed to be seen. Boom. And if you look at the witnesses, there's at least 1 or 2 witnesses that are talking about 2 shooters. There's also 2 different ammos being used. So the other person who's been bragging to Haley Otis was Clyde Forshaw, who said that he was the guy that finished off J.D. Tippett. I have a photo in the Carousel Club of Clyde Forshaw, identified by Haley Otis, and the guy sitting next to him looks a lot like Gary Marlowe. So I think these 2 were there to finish Oswald off. Everybody was looking like, where did he go? Where did he go? But he had been informed, if shit goes to, or whatever, the shit hits the fan, get yourself to the Texas Theater. That's where we're going to meet you up, or you're going to be met up by David Atlee Phillips or somebody like that, and we will help you out. We will take you to this Redwood Airport, something like that. And possibly Barry Seals were waiting there to fly him out. But he was not aware of that he was being set up. There was even it seems like there was a double Oswald there that was let out in the back. This is, beyond Mission Impossible type. It's so multi-layered, all of these things. So I think that was the reason with J.D. Tippett why he was there running around looking for Oswald. He was looking for Oswald to silence him, and instead he ran into Garimalo. That was just bad luck. This whole thing about swapping bodies, it is possible, but had it been planned, you would never go for a headshot. I mean, that would just destroy and at that point, nobody knew about what was the state of JFK's body and so on. So the whole thing about that swap, I don't put a lot of credit to that. What they did though was that they changed the coffins, and there were multiple autopsy, and they tried to fix this and that, and all of it. I tell you, all of this whole thing backfired because of James' shot that came from the wrong direction, and with this ammo that completely blew up the official narrative. So he, I would say, did his job, completely messed up the operation, and got me started. It was that thing that got me started all of these years ago. So it's amazing to be here and sort of like put these pieces together. Then there's another guy, Roscoe White, who is an Dallas police officer, who is also the guy that when you see the photos of Lee Oswald, where he's standing there with a rifle and the newspaper, it was me. Look at the date of the news. I mean, these type of photos, it's incredible. But anyway, if you look at this, that they showed in the JFK movie as well, that the proportions and the shadows doesn't match up. The body of Lee Oswald is Roscoe White's. He had an injury to his wrist, and you can see that exact injury. And if you put Roscoe there, it's a perfect match. It doesn't match up because also Roscoe had a really strong neck.
Yeah, and their chins were different. So the photograph of Roscoe starts right here and goes down, and in this part of Oswald's head. Yeah,
correct.
I have a question for you. I don't want to get
Can I just finish on Roscoe?
Go ahead.
Because Ricky White, Roscoe's son. I mean, Roscoe died. He was taken out also. They blew him up in an accident. But he found evidence that his father was involved, complete compartmentalized, didn't know any, but that he was one of the shooters, behind the picket fence. So I've always tried to get him, where was he? If James were there, it's not there. But if you look at Dealey Plaza, it's like symmetric. It's identical on both sides. So you have the exact same layout on the south side as on the north side. And when Tosh Plumlee was down in the grassy knoll on the south side when the limo came, and they said a shot was fired from behind. They were like, whoa, and they felt the gun smoke. So there was a shooter there. I can only speculate, but I would point and place Roscoe White there, that when he was talking about the picket fence, at that time, the picket fence wasn't famous. The grassy knoll wasn't famous. It was a fence, and he was standing behind that fence. So I think I don't think that shot hit anything at all. It missed.
Maybe James Files and Chucky Nicoletti were the last two. If everything else fell, they were the fail safe. That's why.
No. Chucky was the shooter. Chucky was the one that should nail him. But I mean. But this is not an easy shot, I think. It's not, the distance is not long, but you had like people in cars behind them. I think like one of the reasons why Johnson was like, I mean, he knew it was coming, so he was diving down even before the shots were fired, because he knew also it's like maybe 30 centimeters above their head the shots would be fired. You know, this is like.
Yeah, he was well protected by Secret Service.
But I think that there were possibly in the building opposite the Daltex building, it's the county building, I think. There was one shooter there. There's one footage where you can see it looks like there's like a flash going on. So one shooter there, you have to see from a logistic point of view, they would go down and where they could shoot along just like if the shooter had been at the Texas School Book Depository, they would have fired from Houston Street, which would have given a lot better possibility instead of Elm Street where it's sideways. So the shooters would be like this and from behind. So I think Chucky was one of them. There was one in the county building. Maybe that was Frank Sturgis there. I don't know. But somebody there, possibly Rolando Masferrer on the roof of the Deltex building. There was also a rifle found on the roof of the Texas School Book Depository that has never been explained. So, yeah. So the shots were supposed to be fired from behind. The operation completely compartmentalized, different teams with different, I think Jack Ruby was in charge of one team. You had E. Howard Hunt in charge of one team. You had Lansdale, and then you had wild cannons like James Files that were sort of working on their own. You had the Chicago mob also on location through Giancana. You had Carlos Marcello bringing shooters also to bring the whole thing into one big unholy alliance, just like then when they killed Julius Caesar, everybody stabbed, everybody was involved, everybody had dipped their hands in blood. Nobody could point out anyone without going down themselves. So when you look at this thing, I think a masterpiece when it comes to ambushes. And we're still confused after all of these years. So many people have dedicated their lives, still confused. Nobody is really agreeing on anything. It isn't. Yeah, in this photo, for instance, you can see the Black Dog badge man up at the corner there.
The Umbrella Man.
You can see the Umbrella Man, yeah, for sure. That's Roy Hargraves. And then the guy to the left of him, that's Felipe Vidal Santiago, who's just about to take a step out in front of the limo, slowing it down. But you can see here what they've done is normally the limo, the president limo, would be in the middle of the motorcade. I mean, not in the front, absolutely not in the front. You would have Secret Service on the car, on the sides of the car. You would have motorcycles on the side of the car. Everything's been pulled back. There should be an ambulance right very close to, with a doctor that could, if anything happened, that was pulled back, way back. They even had, like you see that in the JFK movie, that there's this Cuban guy that gets like an epileptic seizure outside the Texas School Book Depository just before the limo comes, so that the ambulance that was there in the neighborhood picked this guy up, drove to the airport, to the hospital, where he just got off out of the ambulance and walked away, to take away all possibilities for survival.
Yeah, when the shots, I can tell you from doing personal details or protective details for high level people, the guy that's in the limousine, he's like he's the lead. So the lead would have been all over the president, and he would have had that limo like driving like warp speed. So I've been the lead. I would have been all over my, the person I'm protecting. I would have been like so fast. If there was a shot that was fired, the limo would be flying down the road, and I'd be on top of the president, getting him down. So that's where we're trained. I don't know maybe those guys didn't train that way in the past, but it's very, very suspect. All those guys, like we've talked about over the years, now that we've been talking about this, and recently, Jim, all these guys are suspect to me. Every single one of them seem to be in on it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that there's this there are people that years ago, like there's footage of a video, and I'm trying to remember if it was William Dankbar or who, but there was a video of Robert Groden being interviewed by somebody that had a European accent. And he said he saw that James Files was telling the truth because nobody would listen to what he had to say. That they turned their back on him. I've heard others say. I recently heard Robert F. Kennedy say, "Well, there are some people that have confessed to being involved, But there's a whole bunch of people that say that. Well, I don't know. I mean, I think Roscoe White, I don't think he came forward and said, yes, I was a shooter from the grassy knoll or anything like that. I think what happened was his son supposedly discovered that stuff after Roscoe died, and then came out with this story. And I don't think Roscoe admitted to any of this stuff. That's a shot of his back.
So we got the shot in the throat. We got this wild shot in the back. What's the shot in the back?
There's 2 holes there. One, I don't know if the top one is a exit hole or an entrance hole.
Exit to me, yeah.
But if it's not, it couldn't be the exit hole, I don't think, of this lightweight pistol that Walter Tabinski fired. But Tabinski did fire. Probably it did not exit. Now I do want to digress a little bit because I want to ask Ole a question. So I think this is for the deniability of the whole thing. So the key thing, that's where he was. Okay. Now here's the key point. The office was closed 2 weeks ahead of time. The furniture was moved out. They told people that it was being renovated. It was going to be repainted, new furniture and all that kind of stuff. They set it up as a sniper's nest 2 weeks in advance. Braden had the key to the room, isolated, access. The route is put in the newspaper that they're going straight down Main Street. They're not going to make the turn on Houston and on Elm. So right at the last minute, they say, oh, there's a change in the route. They're going to turn on Houston and turn on Elm. Or they make that change without telling the public. But there were people waiting for him on Houston and Elm before he got there. They weren't like when you got to the intersection of Main and Houston, there weren't a bunch of people you can see standing along Main. They were lined up on Houston and so somebody, the public knew that morning somehow there was a change to the route. But that adds some tradecraft in about deniability of then, how in the world could they, if the change was done that morning, how in the world would they get the sniper's nest set up and all that? Yeah. So that the route change was not a change at the last minute. That was part of the tradecraft worked into the deal. Now, who did that? Earl Cabell was the mayor of Dallas. I believe the Dallas police and the Secret Service were involved directly, several of them. And Cabell's brother was one of the 4-star generals that JFK fired. He fired Cabell, General Bissell, and
Allen
Dulles, yeah. So, they chose Dallas because LBJ had so much influence there, and they just had so many connections. So, what do you think about that? Ole, do you buy that about the change of the route and all that? That was a part of the original plan all along.
God no. This was planned way ahead. If you look at the exquisite design of how they did it,
right?
I mean, it's like, so for people not to become suspicious or anyone noticing, then they gave, it's going down Main Street.
Yeah.
That was the one. But Lee Oswald was hired and started working at the school book depository for a reason. It was for him to be set up as that was it. That was handpicked, that building, because that building was owned by the same guy that started the Civil Air Patrol. What's his name? And then you had the Hunt brothers, or the Hunt.
Yeah.
H.L. Hunt that owned the Daltex building. These buildings were super central in this whole thing.
Right.
And the whole slowing down of the motorcade, they couldn't have done it. Maine would never have worked. So there was no last minute change. It was maybe a last minute change to the people involved to activate them, but the people planning it they had handpicked this, because it's also, if you look at it, it's the very last bit of road before you go up on the freeway. So there's very little people there compared to in downtown Dallas that could see it, and most of the people that are on the pavement on Houston and Elm were these exiled Cubans or people from Murder Incorporated.
That's
So
right.
I think many of the normal people, ordinary people who were there, maybe they saw that the Cubans had lined up and stuff like that and was just waiting, and they thought, whoa, maybe just like I know some of the witnesses, the Babushka lady and stuff, they ran from Main Street towards Elm when they saw that he turned around the corner. So they ran across, but
Yeah.
the other ones, they already knew.
Right. That's so here's the interesting part to me. I mean, just the one simple thing. So this event is planned, weeks in advance.
Months.
I'm just talking about the public is, hey, John F. Kennedy's coming to Dallas, right?
Mm.
So people say, well, is there any evidence that there was a government conspiracy? Okay, so in a space of about 50 yards, you had George H.W. Bush, who led Operation 40, the government assassination group, and about half the members of the government assassination group within, a pistol shot range of where Kennedy died, and the umbrella and the whole thing. And once you know the facts about that, it's so obvious that it was a government job. And not knowing all these names, I mean, I salute you big time for all these. And you're also admitting that I think this is a little speculation. Me personally, as a kid, I played in storm drains on occasion. There's one in town here near Boonesboro Shopping Center that I went up in when I was a kid, and you could get up in it. But to get a rifle up in there, or even a pistol, and get it out and shoot at an upward angle, that would be a very, very difficult thing. And the other thing too is, when somebody's sitting, not leaning out, looking over the edge of the car, you'd have to run a car down through there, and I'd have to be in there and see that you could even see his head, because when he got hit, he put his hands up like this, but he did slump to the left just a little bit. And I just don't know if somebody could have made a shot from the thing, but it is a consideration for sure. But
I have footage of the people that went down there with a camera and a rifle in the storm drench, checking out the angle, because just like you say, it's like a really whoa, but it's further down the street and an upward angle.
Okay.
So I think this is also when they manipulated the Zapruder film, because apparently the one that has not been at least so manipulated, some of his head is going straight up. And that doesn't make any sense if you hit like that. You can see that in the Zapruder movie also. There's things going straight up.
I've seen a still photograph of that frame. Yeah.
Yeah, where it should go back and to the left, but it's going straight up. And that's not Chucky's head either, because that should go forward. Right. I want to say also regarding there's so many people talking about the throat shot and the windshield and the crack in the windshield. And I agree. I completely agree. You can line it up and like that. But we've test fired rifles with windshields. And like if the windshield is in an angle, which it was on the limo, the shot change directions if it's not super high powered. And so it would go like this and then go slight downwards. And then suddenly this doesn't match up at all. And so whatever it was that cracked the windshield, I mean, if it came from a shot, but I do not believe, I completely believe that it was Walter Dubinsky that did. And also I can show you exactly when you synchronized with the sound, you can see Walter Dubinsky and boom, and let it down. And that is exactly, because also what they did, one of the things they manipulated with the Zapruder movie was that they changed the background so that the car was not in the position from the original. This is also where it's confusing.
Yeah.
This is also why they've changed the light post and all of the position of all of them to make it impossible for us to measure anything or like that.
That goes to show you it was a government too, because who has the power to that? Lee Oswald? After years and years after the grave.
But it's way beyond, I would say, way beyond governments. This is sort of like rogue elements that are a monster thing in the background.
how much of the role do you think was Israel in their trying to seek nuclear weapons?
It's like, how much was the part of the Jesuits? How much was the part of the? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at this octopus of dark power, all of them had an interest in shutting this guy down. I mean, he was really messing things up for them. So, and I think it was after the Cuban Missile Crisis where the military-industrial complex was more and more standing there shouting at Kennedy, press the button, get the Third World War going. And where people that were there said that he sat with tears down his cheeks, just saying, I refuse to be the one that does this to the world. After that, you have this playboy, womanizer, rich man's son, suddenly become this powerful individual just saying, this is it. This is enough. We have to stop this man. And that's where he started becoming this incredible force that is just like, we're going to crush the CIA into 1,000 pieces. He's fired Dulles. He fired Alan Dulles. I mean, Richard Bissell, Cabell, but Dulles, he fired that. It's unheard of. And then he gave the finger to Israel and he said, I'm going to withdraw from the Vietnam War, stopping all the drug trade, all of the military-industrial, massive billions-dollar enterprise, Air America, all unheard of. And then he was going for J. Edgar Hoover. He was going for Johnson. It was just like everybody hated him. So, but I've never found direct connection. I'm not saying they're not there, but I've focused on a street level. So this whole thing about Israel being the thing that will be in the power structure behind the assassination. I do not count them out at all because they're always there in the background, if you ask me, pulling the strings in bizarre ways. But I have not found direct connections down to the actual operation on a street level.
What's your gut feeling about the Operation Zipper document?
It's interesting, but I don't want to put any value to it because it's even said that it's like a hand typed or a typed copy of an original document. It's like, what? I had other copies like that after the bombing of the government building in Norway and the mass shooting in Norway. I have documents also where you have the people that I have pointed out that have signed this paper. You know, we all agree on keeping it quiet, but normally there are no paper trails at all.
Yeah, I get
that level.
But that's
so like,
but are you aware that Dorothy Hunt tried to swap a bunch of blackmail documents and was killed in an airplane crash? You know the deal on that?
Yeah, I'm a friend of
okay, so that supposedly the Operation Zipper document was, you know, it's a hand typed copy of that. They copied the original document, and Robert Trumbull Crowley kept it as like.
I know the story, but can you give value to a copy of a copy that is said to, you know, it's too diffused for me to put any. I mean, it's amazing if it's the real deal.
The reason I asked you that before, because I don't know. It's just I've been provided the document, you know, but supposedly, and there's an email that came out yesterday that Robert Morningstar used some kind of AI program, and he found that exact document in the JFK document release. That's what he claims, and he's gonna release it on July the 4th.
Please ask him for the exact number because I've gone through all of them. I haven't found any. But there are also other releases. There are other releases from the NSA and other national archives that have been done, like Operation Northfield was not from the JFK files. It was from these releases. So maybe it's there. I haven't gone through these ones.
I don't know.
But also we are in the world of these operations. Black is white, white is black. We're in smoke and mirrors inside a labyrinth. So when something comes up like this right in your face, is it real or is it placed there as a diversion away, or we're being thrown a bone when now all of the people that are there on this paper are dead and buried long like that. So to avoid saying, okay, now we finally solved it, now we don't have to look at this power structure that is still there messing with the world.
Right,
so now it's solved, let's put it to rest. Is
Yeah.
that why we've been served this thing? I'm like, I don't know, but I don't like being played with. So I do not put any real value. I think it's interesting, but who put it there?
Do you? Well, it was published in a book 25 years ago, and then
So?
it was given to Gregory Douglas at the death of Robert Trumbull Crowley. But anyway, aside from that, you contend that the badge man was Lucien Sarti, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Did he fire any shots?
No.
Okay, so I looked him up not too long ago.
I can only say I don't think he fired.
Right. Okay, I get it. So, but my question is, there are rumors that Charles de Gaulle was, that they had tried to kill him a couple times, and de Gaulle agreed in the Vietnam thing because of what do they call that, Dien Bien Phu, and the battle there, and the Americans wanting to come into Vietnam and take control of the French connection with the opium and all that stuff. So I'm saying that that's an important link. I don't know that it was, but I don't think it. To get control of this international drug thing, the average CIA guy, I think, that comes to work for the country, he's not thinking, boy, it's going to be nice. I'm going to go to work for the CIA and I'm going to help them run heroin out of, the Golden Triangle or something like that. And I'm going to get really rich on the dark side. They're saying, when you sign up and go through that, what's that form called you have to fill out now? It's like a 184 or something. It's like 90 pages long, the background check thing for, I don't know if I've got one of the blank forms over here in my cabinet. I forget the name of it, but anyway, it's what they use now. But the, Lucien Sarti, supposedly there's this rumor, and I, after James is dead, I can tell you more about this rumor, that there was these Corsican or French assassins or something that were brought in, and it was because de Gaulle wanted them taken out, and they were baited into coming there, and then told to abort or something like that, and they were flown back to either Maryland or Virginia or North Carolina, and they were murdered and cut up in pieces and put in crab traps off the coast, and they were gotten rid of. That's a rumor.
I know.
And then also,
can I just comment on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Then we go. Okay, yeah. So as far as I know, yes, there were Corsican hitmen flown in. I have some of the names. One is Jean-Paul Soutre. I don't know, but I have never found them on location in Dealey Plaza. This is the thing. Is also you have all of these different options.
Yeah, I'm not saying they were there. I'm saying that they were brought to Dallas, and then they were told, "Hey, it's an abort. You guys are not going to do it." And then they were flown back to the Eastern Shore. They were maybe not in Dealey Plaza, and they didn't have anything to do with it. They were just baited into Dallas.
Yeah, but they were not sent by de Gaulle. Absolutely not. The same forces that took out Kennedy was also trying to take out de Gaulle.
Yeah.
So they had. This is the thing with Murderer Incorporated. They had these training camps in Corsica, in Guatemala, in Nicaragua, in many places. And then, just like with James, they were just flown like this. Right. Murder Incorporated, like Operation 40, was a mobile death squad that could be used anywhere in the world. And so just because they come from Corsica doesn't mean that they came from Corsica, that they were sent from there. No, it was a training camp where they were being recruited, because you have these. Corsica is the homeland of the mafia. The whole area, it has a violent background, just like the exiled Cubans' violent background that would work very well in these operations. Yeah. So, but the ones that were brought in, as far as I know, was through the connection from Carlos Gambino in New Orleans, who who had connections to the Marseille mob, and so they flew them in through Marseille to Dallas. And the only one that I have located on location is Lucien Sarti, who also was identified by E. Howard Hunt on his deathbed, which I think gives a lot of credit to that, because it's more or less the only guy he points out. There's Sturgis and others people, but otherwise he's talking more about the picture behind the scenes, Cord Meyer and William Harvey and these boys, when we're looking more at the planning stage of the whole thing.
Yeah. I know that also, and to digress a little bit, Rob Reiner did those 10 interviews about the JFK thing that are 10 shows about it. And in the last one, he named 4 shooters, one of which was Charles Nicoletti. And the 3 other shooters, I don't recall their name, but did they match what you have in your story?
I haven't seen that documentary. I would love it.
Okay, yeah. You can look at it. It's on YouTube. It was Rob Reiner, the guy that producer of, he was a character. He was Meathead and All in the Family.
Oh, yes. Was he a TV producer? Or?
Yeah, well, he did. Yeah. He produced movies. He did, I think, When Harry Met Sally, I think it was one of them or something.
I know exactly. I know exactly which. No, it does not match up with.
But he named Nicoletti, so he did name it, and I said, well, he got one of them right, and the other 3, I thought he was incorrect. He didn't mention James Files on the Grassy Knoll.
No, but it's true.
I don't think he mentioned Walter Tabinski either, and I'm totally convinced you're right about that because you could see it right in the video.
Thank you.
Unless that's completely photoshopped, you hit the nail on the head with that one, because there's no doubt in my mind. I've worn body armor just like that. It's got the body armor goes from here to about your waist, and then it's got that part that's hanging down. Now, sometimes there's a groin plate that you can wear on some body armor, but usually what that is, it's like police body armor, and it's to tuck in your pants. You know what I mean? So
he had it on the outside.
Yeah, he was wearing it on the outside.
It is so obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know how we could not see it. I mean, I don't understand how I could spend like 30 years not seeing it, and then whoa.
Yeah. So it's what you said. You're watching Kennedy. You're not looking at anything but Kennedy as his vehicle's, going by. But absolutely.
I'm very grateful that you see it as well, because for me, that on its own, it's a massive breakthrough from the lone assassin, or there were possibly 2 shooters. No, there were multiple shooters, and the more you get into it, the more. And I mean, I've tracked them down. Every name that I've come up with has taken me years, I tell you, to find. And then finally, I pinpointed. Boom! Now I got you.
Right. So there's one other thing I really want to know your opinion on, and that's that the entire mission was not just to kill Kennedy, but they were trying to kill Ralph Yarborough. That was the plan, but Johnson was unsuccessful at Love Field at getting Yarborough in the car with Kennedy, and Conley was there with his wife Nellie, because they, by protocol, he was the senior, he was the elected governor, and also Nellie and Jackie had gotten to be friends, and they wanted to ride with the Kennedys because it made them look good, and supposedly Ralph Yarborough was going to run against Conley. And Johnson hated him and wanted him dead too, and they were going to try to kill both of them. And I think that maybe Conley got shot by shooters from the School Book Depository. That I think maybe on one end was Mac Wallace. His fingerprint was found on one of the boxes right at the window. He's the only fingerprint that they identified, and he was Kennedy's hitman. And then also maybe on the other end,
Johnson's hitman.
Right. What did I say?
Kennedy's.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, LBJ. He's LBJ's hitman, and he was well known for killing. He killed his estranged girlfriend's boyfriend or something like that at a golf course.
Yeah, but his way of killing people was completely different. He was not a good shot. He was front like that. He even murdered Johnson's sister. Yeah. But the thing is, I think you're. Let's take it step by step.
Well, do you think they were trying to kill Yarborough? Do you think that
No, they wanted that car filled with whoever they could get rid of, you know. So I think that was the idea. Yardborough should have been taken out as well. Any shot that missed, great, he died as well, or he would be killed at the hospital first, wounded, and then died. So I think, yeah, that was part of the plan. Are you still there?
No, it's like you froze.
Yeah, anyway, so yes, Yardborough, I think, was actually also a target, but it was, of course, Kennedy. Let's see if he's still there.
I'm back. Hey, I dropped off for about the last minute. What happened?
Oh, no, so I think that you're correct that the plan was that Yardborough should be in the car and hopefully be hit as well, because then they would get rid of an extra problem like that in one go. Boom. Had he only been wounded, then I think the idea was take him to hospital and then he would die from the injuries, maybe suffocated by a pillow or something like that. But that he was a much minor target than Kennedy. Kennedy was, but like you said, for some reason he refused to get in the car, so they had to push Connolly there. And Connolly, I don't think he was aware of the bigger picture. At least in that case, I wouldn't like to have been in his.
No, I don't think he knew.
When he said they are going to kill us all, I think that he suddenly, oh my God, it's happening, you know. So regarding, what was the next thing you said? What
about
was
Mac Wallace and maybe Roscoe White being shooters on the.
Okay. Yeah, I believe that the one up to the left with these dark glasses was Richard Kane, who was a really good shot, and who was in an angle where that could have been fired from, also from the Texas School Book Depository. But I think that fingerprint, which was the only fingerprint that was found there, was put there so that they could, if needed, blackmail Johnson.
Okay, there you
go. Because after, if Johnson had sort of become big-headed or out of control, they could just say, well, listen, we have Mac Wallace directly connected to you at the sniper's nest. That would shut him down directly, because that would prove direct involvement with the Kennedy. So that fingerprint was not identified for years because they didn't need it. They never activated that operation, and then it was identified as Mac Wallace of all people.
Yep.
So I think that was placed there very, very on purpose to have as a hammer against Johnson should he stand up.
Yeah, they had the other thing too was the rifle that was found up there right after it happened. There was a police officer, and I have a copy of the affidavit signed by, I think his name was Seymour Weitzman.
Yeah,
was a 7.65 Mauser bolt action rifle, not a 6.5 millimeter, 7.65. Which is kind of, it's a little bigger than it's like a 30-06 case. And it's a German Mauser cartridge, but it was found. He used to own a sporting goods store. He knew what it was. They looked at it. It said on there. And he actually told some of the guys in the press, and if you look at some of the old black and white news broadcasts from that night, they said that it was a 7.65 Mauser used in the assassination. And then all of a sudden the next day, it was a 6.5 Carcano. But the reason they had to switch him is because that's the picture they had of Oswald holding the right, with Roscoe White holding the rifle. It was the 6.5 Carcano that he got from Inner Arms.
Yeah. Do you know, like we had Roger Craig, also the deputy sheriff, who also saw the Mauser, identified it as a Mauser, and so on. So that was there for sure. But the Manica Carcano, I'm still confused why they chose that weapon, because it was a crap weapon, like a toy gun that couldn't hit anything. But Chauncey Holt, who was the guy that delivered the Secret Service badges to the operation, he was working in Los Angeles, where he was a major forger in all kinds of stuff. They were working in the same building where they made the real badges, sheriff badges, and all of so they was just like going up and down the stairs, and they got the real, but they were fake. But they were what he also said was that he was very much into weapons and how to manipulate them and test shoot and whatever silencers and stuff. And they got an order of Manica Carcanos and special ammo and all of it months and months and months ahead. that was there for some reason to prepare for Oswald. But Haley Otis, the woman I told you about before, the witness, and that was pointing out to Walter Tubinsky and Clyde Forshaw, she said that Clyde and her were the one. She was the one that filled in the mail order thing where Oswald ordered the. She didn't know what she was doing. They were doing this whole thing, and somebody said, "Can you just please sign here?" So it's her. When you see the autograph or the signature on the ordering slip, it's not Oswald's writing. It's Haley Otis, and on my website, like I said, there's about 100 hours of testimonies, super interesting things, and it's been a long time since I listened to it. But there, she's also talking about that their involvement on their part months ahead when it came to the rifle, when it came to these things. But I'm still confused why they chose this crap rifle there. But otherwise than that, maybe it was because he didn't have a lot of money officially, and that this was a mail order thing. I don't know why they did it, but I know that it was test fired, and they did all kinds of tests, with low powered ammo and this and that. But with these type of assassination, normally they would use the same caliber, even if there were different weapons, so that whatever bullet was found could be said, well, it was that gun, it was that they didn't like mismatch.
Yeah.
Here, I don't know. And when I asked James what Chucky used, what type of rifle, he said, I think it was a Mauser. I'm not really sure, unfortunately, because that really makes sense. If there was a Mauser that Chucky had, it was a Mauser in the Texas School Book Depository. If the Badgeman had a Mauser, and so that would make sense.
Well, James brought the weapons, right? So he would know.
Yeah,
he didn't bother to look. He didn't care. He just bought a whole stack of guns.
Yeah, he told me. I asked him a lot of questions about the weapons after I first met him. I grilled him on this stuff, and I was big on the getaway car, all kinds of stuff about the details. And he said it was a Mauser chambered in 30-06. And I asked him, I said, "What kind of ammo did you use?" And he said, "Like whatever we had." So, I think it was just military ball ammo. Because you could buy that surplus back then, and it would have been a full metal jacket bullet. It might even have been a black tip armored piercing bullet. And if you had shot somebody in the head with one of those, it would have made an entrance and an exit wound like a steel rod had gone through the.
Right.
Now, you can't, when the bullet goes through an aqueous, like the brain, something, a fluid thing, you can't compress the fluid. So there's a big dynamic temporary wound channel when you go through fluids. But other than that, if you shoot somebody like through the calf muscle or through your quads or through your gluteus maximus with a full metal jacket bullet, especially those, what was the 883s, the little green tip bullets, they would go right through you, and it was like sticking an ice pick through somebody.
But here they're supposed to, but here the whole idea is to blame an amateur who didn't know what he was doing,
right?
And then suddenly you have special ammo like that or special weapon that wouldn't match up at all.
Yeah,
I think this is once again why they chose this Italian crap gun.
Yeah.
Anyway, guys, I need to shoot off. I just want to say I'm really, really happy and honored that I could be part of this. And
thanks a lot.
Whoever is listening, please support Pamela and James. I mean, they should not be in a situation where they have to beg more or less to sell books and beg for, please, we have a medical bill. I mean, my God, that's the least at all. So please be generous when you think about what they have put up, what the price they paid for us, not for their own gain, for us to find out. So
they're not making any money. They go paycheck to paycheck, and they don't sell enough books they just barely make their bills, and I've helped them financially and other people have, but he served this country in a lot of ways. And, the CIA has done a lot of good stuff for this country. And I mean, just the way that they built like the SR-71, they had to get the titanium from Russia and all that kind of stuff. But some of the things that they've done have caused more harm than good. And back then they were such a rogue organization, and after Dulles got fired, I don't think Dulles went anywhere. I think he just kept running the agency, and that John McCone was in place. But they have a tremendous amount of power, and I still think they do to this day. I wonder if those drone attacks in Russia last week that destroyed 40 strategic long-range nuclear bombers, that drone attack, I would be willing to bet anything that was a CIA drone thing.
Absolutely, got the signature all over it.
And Ukraine took the credit / the blame. But when you can knock out 30% of the strategic bombers of a country in one day with a bunch of little cheap drones, that goes to show you what warfare is going to be, because they could do the same thing to us. They could. I mean, we're going to end up having a big bunker, like they have at Incirlik Air Force Base up in there in Turkey.
Yep.
Got these big armored hangars for they put the airplanes in.
I'm just going to say on that high note,
right.
I need to go.
It's been great.
Anyway, and thank you, Jim, for helping James and Pam so much. Very much appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to do another one, we'll do another one.
For sure.
I think he could go another hour.
Let's see. Yeah. Have a great one.
Okay. Thank you.
Guys.
Great show. Thank you, brother.